Welcome to a brand new series of Inside Out West Midlands. On tonight's programme, living with debt in a city with one of the most acute problems anywhere in the country.
If anybody had said to me, at 63 you're going to be going through a bankruptcy, I would have said, what are you talking about?
It's absolutely heartbreaking, knowing you can't afford to pay your bills, knowing you can't afford to feed your family.
And leaving your cares behind and living a life afloat. Does it really live up to the dream?
I honestly think it's the personal choice, because you have to make sure you've got water in your tank, enough diesel, you have to buy the coal to heat up your boat.
I'm Iowa Kimmeleri, and this is Inside Out West Midlands. Hello and welcome to the programme. Tonight we're in Birmingham, and later on we'll be finding out about the hidden side to life on our canals. But first, debt is something that can creep up on us very quickly, and the effects can be devastating. So Castor Alum went to Stoke-on-Trent, a city with the worst insolvency levels anywhere in the country.
I just couldn't see a way out. It's just a very dark place that you get yourself into.
If anybody ever found out, it's the ridicule. It's a very embarrassing ordeal to go through.
Debt, thousands of pounds of it, enough to cause misery, and in Stoke-on-Trent, it's happening a lot.
31% of my constituents earn less than the living wage, the real living wage.
Some desperate situations with no money coming in at all.
When there's nowhere else to turn, the final option can be a bitter pill to swallow.
If anybody had said to me, at 63 you're going to be going through a bankruptcy, I would have said, what are you talking about? Don't label me with that stigma, you know what I mean? Having been there, I've got a different view now.
Bankruptcy doesn't just apply to businesses, but also to individuals who can't pay sizable debts. For smaller sums, there are debt relief orders. Neither are easy options, and both are a type of insolvency. In Stoke-on-Trent, levels of insolvency are high.
In fact, latest figures show there have been more new cases of individual insolvency here in Stoke-on-Trent than in any other local authority.
So I want to find out why it's happening. Danny Garcia worked all his life and owned his own home. So how did things go so wrong?
My financial difficulties really started after my divorce, because of my wife got that house and everything else really, and then I had to find somewhere else to live, and the job was going down the pan. I was using my credit cards for everything, maxed them all out, and that's when I hit sort of the wall then. There was no more credit cards. I was just getting demands for bills for paying them, not knowing what I was going to do.
What was the lowest point?
I'm checking my bank to see if I've got enough money to go and get some shopping, and I've not got no money. And then I'm thinking, well, what have I got in the fridge? What have I got in the freezer to eat? I'm going to be able to eat this week. Yeah, it is frightening.
When things got too much, Danny went to a debt relief charity, and that's where he met Anne Riddle.
So first few days back in New Year, how's it gone so far?
It's been absolutely crazy, but it's to be expected really. It's always a difficult time of year for people.
Although she's retired, Anne still gives up her spare time to help others through what can be the most stressful time of their lives.
So what are some of the reasons why people are falling into trouble?
Mainly, I think, benefit issues. Redundancy has been in Stoke-on-Trent quite a big factor for a lot of my clients. We've seen the breakdown of a lot of our traditional industries, and of course a lot of unemployment.
So what sort of state are people coming to you in then? They must be completely stressed out.
Oh, they are. Well, people very often will come to us as a last resort. I think a lot of it is pride. They don't want other people to know of the difficulties, and so they try really, really hard to cope with it themselves.
And it seems like you're more than just a debt advisor. Are you ever going to stop?
I think my family would very much like me to say, yes, I'm going to stop. But in reality, no, I can't see it really, because what's going to happen to these people? You know, a lot of them just need someone to hold their hand.
Of course, opening up about money problems can be a massive hurdle to overcome.
For some people, insolvency doesn't just mean financial downfall, it's a social downfall as well.
And that's why factory worker Martin, which isn't his real name, doesn't want to be identified. Time off work because of ill health meant he fell behind on debt repayments, totalling £35,000. His one way out was bankruptcy, but his embarrassment only made things worse.
When you were going through the bankruptcy,
Yep.
what's that stigma been like?
It's awful. It's worse than owing the money. It's why it took me so long to declare myself bankrupt. I mean, it took me 10 months to finally go through with it, because it's of the scale of embarrassment. It's a defeat. It's a kick to your ego. When I wanted, at this stage of my life, I wanted my own house. I wanted 2 kids. I wanted all my cars paid for, this, that, and the other one as an end game, shall we say. And I've achieved none of that.
Going bankrupt can be a way of drawing a line under debt, but it can have serious consequences.
It's not a nice process.
Can you put all this behind you?
In March I can, when the bankruptcy order's over, and I haven't got to ring up every month and do battle with them. Yes, there's a future, but it's going to take another 5 years on top of that before I can be seen as a responsible adult when it comes to lending. And rightly so. It's obviously I've done companies out of quite a considerable amount of money.
Bankruptcies like Martin's generally cover debts of £20,000 or more, but what if you owe less than that? According to the Citizens Advice Bureau, debt relief orders are the most popular type of insolvency in the city.
Why do you think Stoke-on-Trent has got such a high rate of insolvency and using debt relief orders?
It's particularly appropriate in a city like Stoke because, for a variety of reasons, including incomes in Stoke being low and that therefore limiting the amount people can borrow, lots of the people we see have relatively low levels of debt. Then actually a debt relief order is a very quick and simple and relatively cheap way of resolving those problems.
So is this an income issue? And just how are things going to get better? Ruth Smeeth has been the Labour MP for Stoke-on-Trent North since 2015. She's been horrified by what she's seen.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. Can you imagine anything more difficult other than personal debt, knowing you can't afford to pay your bills, knowing you can't afford to feed your family, and that there isn't enough support out there through the statutory services to move things forward, that the local authority isn't taking responsibility, that you're broadly speaking on your own. This now requires concerted effort so that people aren't set up to fail, and that's one of my concerns about the city.
Going through insolvency can be distressing and might feel like the end of the world, but it can also mean a fresh start.
How you been?
How lovely to see you.
And you, darling.
Yes.
After years of ups and downs, Danny recently moved into his new flat and he sees it as a new beginning.
Did you two imagine at all being in this place? I mean, because you, 4 years ago, Anne helped you out, is that right?
Yeah,
I think it is about 4 years.
and then last year again.
Danny, could you have
Yeah,
got through
yeah.
this without Anne?
No, absolutely not. And she just got me through it all.
It's a lovely feeling to see somebody happy and confident and able to go forward with their life.
So what's the advice from the people we've spoken to when it comes to taking back control and dealing with your debt?
If you leave it late, then it just becomes harder and harder for anyone else to help you get out of the hole.
It's never too early to seek help and advice.
Don't just borrow money because you think you've got it, because it can be taken away very, very quickly, which I found out the hard way.
Get help straight away. Don't leave it.
Don't just sit there because it's not going to go away. You have to act.
Danny's nightmare is ending, but that's not the case for so many others worrying about debt in the city tonight.
As we've just seen, insolvency is definitely not a situation you want to find yourself in. It's often at this time of year, after an expensive Christmas, that those debt problems start to surface. Now in the UK, over 8 million people struggle to keep their finances in check. So how do we become a bit more savvy with our spending and our saving? Well, financial expert Jasmine Birtles has been finding out how we can get back in the black.
I'm in Birmingham today with £500 to see if people are spenders or savers. So if I were to give you £1, would you like to spend it or save it?
I'm the spender.
I'll spend it, because I'm thirsty, I need a drink.
You can. Oh, you're clever boy.
Spend it. I've not got enough money to save.
While the team continue with our experiment, I'm catching up with debt charity Community Money Advice.
We're volunteers from Community Money Advice.
They're hosting a roadshow here in one of Birmingham's largest shopping centres. Hey Julian, hello, good to see you.
We're not selling anything.
January is when we get a lot of calls across the whole CMA network because people have spent at Christmas and enjoyed themselves and really not connected that with the consequences of what happens in the weeks afterwards when all those bills start coming in.
I was passing by and I just asked some advice because Christmas has been a little bit difficult because I have got myself into a little bit of debt.
Our aim today is to try and break the taboo that people have about spending money. We find in all of the advice that we give face to face with people that once you just get it out in the open and you start opening the post, that wall just evaporates.
Are you going to put it in the spending jar or the saving jar? Spending. Excellent. Oh, good.
Spend it. Yeah.
Out of the 500 £1 coins we've been giving out, just how many people decided to save and how many chose to spend? 148 would save them, but 352 would spend them. So it looks like Birmingham people like to spend. Our experiment today was just a bit of fun, but statistics show we are a nation of spenders. The average household has £14,000 worth of non-mortgage debt, and 1 in 3 households in the UK has no savings whatsoever. Getting out of debt isn't easy. I should know, I've been there. But a unique project in London could have a solution. I'm in the London borough of Newham, which has the highest level of problem debt in the country. 1 in 4 people here is behind on a bill or a credit commitment.
Morning, welcome to Moneyworks.
Since Moneyworks opened 2 years ago, they've seen over 3,500 Newham residents use the service.
Did they open a saving account for you as well?
Moneyworks was set up by the Mayor of Newham. Client had gone into a surgery and had a financial crisis and it ended up going to loan sharks. And it was then that's the Robin thought, what can I do for the residents of Newham to offer more affordable credit?
Just put in for an £800 loan, so see what happens.
Just get at least a good sum, like that, 200.
What's special about Moneyworks is that it offers loans in partnership with a credit union alongside debt advice.
It's not about just giving a loan and putting a plaster on and it's forgotten about. It's about working with the customer and looking at where they are and how we can move them forward.
How are you, Michael?
Nice to see you.
Michael first came to Moneyworks 18 months ago, desperately struggling with £5,000 worth of debt.
I got very, very depressed and I tried to take my own life on several occasions because of the pressure of debt.
Ill health forced Michael to retire. This, together with the drop in benefits, meant he was struggling to afford basic living costs.
It was our washing machine that broke down. Always seems to happen around about Christmas time with us. I don't know why.
Michael couldn't afford to buy a washing machine outright, so he got one from rent-to-own company Bright House. At £9.50 a week, it seemed like a good deal, but the total cost amounted to over £1,600.
You end up paying astronomical amounts for small items.
Bright House told us they give people on lower incomes an affordable way to get everyday goods.
A lot of customers who come to us aren't even aware of some of the interest rates that they're paying, and you know, it's an eye-opener to them.
I thought, my word, you know, all that money, it's just ridiculous.
I can just do a quick calculation to see other gas and electric suppliers.
Michael was given practical advice alongside a loan to pay off his debts.
We decided to offer him a MoneyWorks loan to pay off the Bright House loan, and Michael was £1,213 better off.
Michael is now debt-free.
Come to somewhere like MoneyWorks. It's a pity they haven't got it nationwide, and it worked wonderful.
MoneyWorks is proving so successful, other councils are now looking at doing the same.
So you're a little bit down today.
Half of those seeking debt help nationally have mental health problems. Wayne suffers from bipolar disorder, and this time last year he was in serious debt.
My wife and ourselves were experiencing problems with our rent, so we got a credit card to help us out. And unfortunately, it just spiralled out of control.
Wayne's credit card had an interest rate of 40%. He was unable to meet the monthly payments.
Did you look at the interest rate, or was it just a question of, you know, who'd give you a card?
Who'd give me a credit card, basically.
A loan with us
would be better.
Would be better than paying the high interest that you're paying on that Bankwest card.
Back in Birmingham, and the roadshow is in full swing.
For people who've got credit cards and have got debts that are building up, the answer to solving the runaway credit is not more credit. Now's the time to actually cut up that credit card. Okay, fantastic. We've had people burst into tears at the moment that the scissors cut through because of the emotional tag and hold that the idea of credit has got with someone.
It might come as a shock to most of us, but by 7 years old, children have already formed their financial habits. I've
come to Curtin School in Boston in Lincolnshire to meet an expert team of super savers.
Hello. Please may I have the courage to go deliver?
You can, yes.
I'm Lily and I'm the bank manager. I need to look after everyone's money and I need to make sure that nothing goes wrong with it.
My name's Taylor and I am the assistant bank manager. I have to supervise all the cashiers and make sure no one's misbehaving.
When we first started the project, we were asking children where they think money comes from, and they just think it comes from a cash point or it comes out of a till. They didn't really understand, which is why we introduced the idea of you need to work for your money and then you're rewarded.
Children can earn their curts by doing well in spelling and times tables, working in the bank or shop, and for special achievements.
You have 14 curts, what would you like to do?
Can I deposit them, please?
So this is an actual curt. There's the back of it. It's worth about 3p, but to these children it's worth a lot more. They can either deposit it in the bank here, or once they've earned enough, they can take some out and spend it in the Curtin store next door. I'm going to go in and have a look and see what I can get.
Children are often saving for over a year before they'll buy anything at all. I think the interest has made a difference as well. They see it as, well, actually, if I just keep my 50 curts in the bank over a year, I'm going to get an extra 30 curts.
It's clear to these children that saving reaps rewards.
So what are you going to buy?
A teddy.
Oh, and show me where the teddy is. Is it that one? Oh, lovely. Should we go in and buy it?
Yeah.
Come on then.
What we're hoping is that children are actually understanding and experiencing the process of saving and learning to wait for things.
They called him Tom.
Back at the roadshow, and the day is coming to a close.
So Julian, how's it been today?
We're seeing lots of debts, but the most important message is don't sit on it, get help. There is no debt that we've yet seen that can't be sorted and get you to freedom.
Jasmine Birtles reporting there. And Jasmine will be live on the BBC Money Facebook page straight after Inside Out tonight to answer any queries you might have about debt. Make sure you get there for 8 p.m. Right, for our final film tonight, living on a boat can seem the ideal way of escaping some of those household bills and the hassle of everyday life. And year on year, more and more people are choosing to live on the water, but living on a canal boat can get a little lonely. So who's there to help if things go wrong? Britain has thousands of miles of canals and waterways. They're enjoyed by tens of thousands of boaters every year, cruising through some of the most beautiful landscapes this country has to offer. Most see the canals as somewhere to enjoy on high days and holidays, but the number of people making a permanent home on the water is rising, especially where houses are becoming unaffordable.
Where there are kind of cities or towns, we tend to have people living on their boats more, and the growth is linked to the pressures on housing and accommodation.
More than 11,000 boats are now used as homes. But once the nights draw in and the temperature falls, does life afloat live up to the dream?
It's actually the most difficult part, so if I can survive this one, I know I can survive anything on a boat. Especially I think that was the hardest winter for the last 7-8 years.
So in the toughest of times, it's good to know there's someone there to help.
My attitude is anything and everything that's needed, I do.
The canals were born out of the Industrial Revolution and became vital arteries keeping factories supplied and transporting goods. A thriving community where families were raised, there was always support on hand for those who needed it.
Only a few minutes elapsed during the flooding of the lock before the barges passed through and on. A few minutes to give running first aid in cases of sickness among families often numbering 10, quartered on a single pair of barges.
But these days, those who live and trade on the canal are part of a hidden community that many of us don't even know exist. Richard Alford spent a lifetime in London's printworks before becoming Reverend Alford. These days, he's a volunteer chaplain on the waterways, walking miles along the towpaths, looking out for people in need.
My attitude is anything and everything that's needed, I do. So for some instances, it'll be helping people to access benefits, to pay for their licence. For other situations, it might be just being a friendly face, someone to talk to.
For people like Marilyn and Alan who trade at floating markets all year round, the chaplains have become part of their community.
The longer you're on the canal, the more people you meet. And there's some really sad cases where, husband and wife have split up, the husband's got nothing, and this is their only option, and then they tend to go, back into themselves, and then that's where Richard comes in. He does a fantastic job, and he's always there if needed.
4 years ago, Richard came across Ray and Leslie, who travel and trade on the canals.
Oh, I love this.
Looking a bit festive.
Ray had been diagnosed with cancer and was being treated here in Birmingham. So for the first time in 13 years, they had to moor up and stay put.
Of course, we got loads of friends to give us support on the boats, but of course they carried on travelling and we were staying put. So just knowing that there was somebody there to turn to, and it was a super point of contact. Yeah.
And although it's the Christian values that underpin the work of the chaplains, they really are here for everyone.
My wife's pagan and I'm agnostic. Richard doesn't seem to mind. But Richard doesn't mind at all, and he helps us. Yeah. As well as he'd help anybody else, and he is an integral part of the community.
Becoming a chaplain is a big responsibility that includes a training program that could take up to 12 months to complete. Learning everything from spiritual guidance to regulations around welfare support, as well as the structure of the Waterways network.
Probably another month, maybe 2, and then we'll have completed it.
Because there's a lot you have to research and find and learn about. And greatly we've got Richard.
Across the West Midlands, there's a dozen waterway chaplains. John and Jill Spate are the latest recruits.
There's a lot of people out on the waterways, just like everywhere else, that are depressed, health problems, no food, nowhere to turn to, but Waterways Chaplains really are a support network for them, Everybody will help anybody on the canal. That's the community. But they don't always have time to be able to continue that, whereas they can get in touch with Waterways Chaplains and know somebody will visit.
Of course, you can't be a chaplain on the canals if you don't know how to operate the locks. And when times get tough, Richard and the chaplains find support in their faith.
Like all social people, social workers, it's that you have to have sometimes people that you can offload to. So I have a prayer team behind me. Prayer is vital in the chaplaincy work.
So what makes someone give up their home comforts and move on to the waterways? At just 23 years old, Mike, who's from Poland, has swapped his city centre flat for a narrowboat. He's testing out life on the water and has been living here in Birmingham for 4 months.
The thing which actually attracted me to the living on a boat was freedom, because when you buy a flat, you're actually quite stuck. If you want to change your job, move out, you have to sell the flat, buy a new one or rent a new one. On the narrowboat, it's much easier. I can just untie my home and go somewhere else, to London, Liverpool, Manchester, anywhere I want, to be honest.
Mike has been working on the canals for 5 years. He's now a boatmaster running day trips in the city. But as more people seek alternative to rising rents, he warns that this life is not for everyone.
I honestly think it's the personal choice, because you have to make sure you've got water in your tank, enough diesel, you have to buy the coal to heat up your boat. When you live in a flat, you just can set up a direct debit on every single year payment and you don't care about anything. In here, you actually have to make sure you've got everything, so it's not the type of life for everyone. It's actually the most difficult part, so if I can survive this one, I know I can survive anything on a boat. Especially I think that was the hardest winter for the last 7-8 years.
One thing that makes this leap of faith easier is the knowledge that wherever he chooses to live, Richard and the chaplains are on the end of the line.
I'm sure if I would call Richard in next 5 days, hey mate, I'm in Manchester, can you give me a number of one of the chaplains from there, because I need some help, he will definitely get the information for me ASAP and try to help me.
The Waterway Chaplains are completely independent, and as such, they're able to work with both the boating community and the Canal and River Trust.
The Trust does a lot to support boaters when they're in difficulty. We kind of make adjustments, allow people to stay longer at certain times, and we have our own welfare officer who can help boaters in need as well. But with 2,000 miles of water, the Trust staff can't be everywhere at the same time, and so having more people, eyes and ears on the towpath to look out for people who might want to chat, who might have a problem they want to talk about, is a real benefit.
But there are only around 60 volunteers spread across the whole country, so there's a drive to increase the number of chaplains to 200 by 2020.
That will enable us to cover a fair bit of the 2,000 miles of canal and rivers. But obviously more than 200 will be a bonus.
Living on a boat, moving from place to place, means forming lasting friendships can be difficult. So a friendly face, a cup of tea and a chat can be vital.
But there are people that actually do need the chaplains. We're in that very lucky situation, but you never know, do you? You never know.
If you'd like to catch up on any of the films you've seen on tonight's programme, don't forget we're on the iPlayer. And we're also on Twitter as well, at BBC IOWM. And as ever, if there's any stories you think we should be covering, drop me an email, io@bbc.co.uk. Right, that's your lot for tonight. We'll see you at the same time next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Next week, how getting just a little bit more active can make a big difference to your life. We set one family a 4-week target to do more together, and we check if it really made a difference.